Right, live in 60 live. We should be live. Okay, I really need some feedback, people. Hello, it is Tuesday night, it's cheese night. I've gone a little bit early because we've had some technical issues. So if there's anybody out there who can hear me, please, for God's sake, write in the chat box. I don't know if we're being received. So Tracy, are you with me yet?
I'm with you, Charlie. I'm here. Good evening.
Two of us. Oh, we've got Jill. Whew. Thank you, Jill. You just made my heart rate has gone boom, 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 boom. Okay, so we got anybody else out there? Apparently got 8 people waiting. Got James. Nice to meet you, James. Welcome to the team. Welcome to Tuesday night. It's cheese night. I think we have got Bridget. Don't know what happened there. Okay, it wouldn't be amateur video night if it wasn't a little bit amateurish. So it's 8 o'clock. It is Tuesday. Thank you for joining us. It's Tuesday night. It's cheese night. And I'm really pleased to see so many people of you lovely people joining us. Tonight, as you know, if you've been listening to our excellent messages coming out, we're talking about goat's cheese. Goat's cheese is used to be ubiquitous, one of the most popular cheeses in the world, and has become a little bit rarer. It's some people's absolute favorite cheeses, other people, it just turns them right off. But you've joined Charlie Turnbull, you've joined the Academy of Cheese, and you've joined Tracy. Let's see if we can get Tracy up here. Tracy, are you there?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday night is cheese night. I am here.
Whew. Yeah, we're trying some new software. We're being powered by a duck tonight. I don't know if any of you guys out there are anatodeophobes. I know it's a sort of family joke in my family. And an anatodeophobe is somebody who thinks that a duck is watching them. And on this case, we're watching the duck. We're using StreamYard. If it works next week, we're going to pay some money and make it a little bit better. But so as always, feedback is really welcome. So Tracy, what have you been doing this week?
I've been working on something to help the artisan cheesemakers, the small cheesemakers who are struggling at the moment with all the restaurants closed and everything else. So we've been putting together the British Cheese Weekender, which is happening on the 8th of May till the 10th of May. And very exciting times. We've got an amazing lineup coming with loads and loads of virtual masterclasses.
Am I right in saying, Tracy, that they've moved the bank holiday this year to coincide with VE Day? So it's on a Friday, the first May bank holiday. Friday. Bank holiday Monday of the first bank holiday in May, I believe, is now actually bank holiday on the Friday to be 75 years of the VE Day. So it's the 8th, which should be quite exciting. We're going to be celebrating that. And we're going to do, the Tuesday Night is Cheese Night team are coming in. We're going to do a sort of version of God, This Question Time. We're going to get some cheese specialists on here at 8 o'clock on a Saturday. That's the 9th, where you can ring in with questions. We're going to get exclusively Jamie Montgomery, the Mick Jagger of cheese making, is going to be joining us. And so to compliment him, we're going to get Ruth Ruskin from the Fine Cheese Company, who knows just about every cheesemaker in the country, and she's been working there and knows her cheeses from a cheesemonger's point of view. So it's going to be me, Ruth, and Jamie. We want to take your calls, hear your chat. So if you're available, 8 o'clock, 9th of May, come and join us. Right. So time to talk cheese, or do you want me to do any more announcements, Tracy?
No, let's talk cheese. Let's talk and eat cheese.
Okay, let's talk and eat cheese. I pick up my knife. Just so you know, tonight we're going to be having a little muscadet. Historically, and I'll be coming on to this in a second, the great cheeses of goat's nut have come out of the Loire area. And that, as you possibly know, probably don't know, is a big white wine region. So a lot of really good goat's cheeses come from go well with the white wine, which is why we've got the muscadet. Can you see that? Can I see that? Oh yeah, I think you can. Marvelous. I'm going to pour myself my second glass shortly. Hopefully I can get this one without my wife stealing it. So goat's cheese, let's talk about them. As I said, the Loire which is a river that runs roughly from the middle of France directly west towards the towards the Atlantic. Down there, you have all those beautiful chateaux like Chenonceau and all that kind of thing. And there are 5 great goat's cheese, big PDO goat's cheeses from that area. We have Seltzer, Valençay, Pouligny, Saumur de Touraine, and the Crottin de Chavignol, which is a bit over on the side, but they are awesome cheeses. They are beautiful, they're light, and they have been making them there. And I think it's reasonable to say that's the center of goat's cheese excellence in the world. But the last 30, 40 years has seen people trying it everywhere. And we've got different goats, we've got different cheeses. So the first cheese we're going to look at tonight is the Saumur de Touraine. Here he comes. 5, 6, 5.5, 6 inches of pure goat's gorgeousness. Can you see that that's got a light mottling on top? That is not mold, that is ash. They use ash, or historically used ash, to repress some molds and increase the activities of others. And they used to cover this not with a mold. People often think it's a mold ripened cheese, but it's not. It's a yeast. It's a yeast. It makes it very fragile. So let's have a look in here. Now, this cheese, can you see? Can you see it's got a little sticky in it? A little stick. This is a little bit of straw. This cheese is very fragile when young, so they, particularly the shape, so they put a bit of straw through it to hold it together, which is meant for when before it sort of sets, you might say. So we're going to go in there. We're going to, there we go, hold him, and you can see the straw runs all the way through. Now this is a PDO cheese, which means that it's made under a set of rules. Now, one of the rules now is that they do a little stenciling on the straw. I don't know if you can see that. Am I going to be able to get in there? Can you see that, people? Can you see that? I can't know if you see that already. But it says Saumur de Touraine. That's because it's original. And if we manage to get the other one out, it would get the name of the cheesemaker on there as well. Here we go. That didn't look very health conscious. So who have we got here? Got the code. My eyes getting old. Nearly 50. For God's sake. What's that about? Right. Well, on here is the cheesemaker. I will get my beautiful assistant, my wife, to see if she can read that to complete your knowledge. So that's what we got. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just interrupt? Are you able to? I think the guys through YouTube are seeing the Tuesday night is cheese night logo really large.
Okay.
Are you able to change that on your stream, please?
Cool. Oh, why didn't I think of that? Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Okay, we're back in the house though. Can you see this? This is a cut open. Right. Now, I don't know if you can see that. There we go. That's a bit better. Can you see it's just a little bit gooey under the skin there? This kind of mold, this yeast, only penetrates. Remember we talked last week about having a camembert has a penetration of about a centimeter and a half. This chap only goes through a few mil, which means it gets this gooey line under there. So let's start with that. So these cheeses in this shape make fantastic shapes, and you can use them for recipes. You can use them for your cheese board. You can even put them on your eyes and you look twice as beautiful in the morning and all your lines will disappear. So, and this has this, I don't know if you can see that. I can see it. It just slips off the edge. The coat slips off the edge because it's got a real gooiness just under there. Now you get this right, and the way I like it, this undercoat goes very liquid, very creamy. But a lot of the French think that that's a flaw and they call it slip coat. And the reason they used to not like it is because it makes it very, very fragile when transporting it. You get these like blocks of cheese sliding around in their coats and they break and the goo goes everywhere and they're difficult to serve and the guy at the end is a bit disappointed. So they really like a strong attachment, but in taste terms and visual appearance, that slip coat is delicious. It's like cheese in a cheese sauce. That's really nice. So I'm going to taste this and then we're going to move on to Charlie Westhead at Neil's Yard Creamery. It's firm. It's got a light initial acidity. And then you have a smooth velvetiness that comes off goat's milk. Goat's milk has got a real sweet, but it's a smooth sweetness. It's not at all sugary. It's like tasting cream. It's like tasting velvet. Now, does it taste of the goat? I'm going to come back to that because tasting the goat is a thing, right? Some people, about 1 in 20 people, think it's just, goats, farmyard. It's like you're being humped by a billy goat. It's just no fun for anyone. The other side of it is that you get the pure, the cream, what's the right phrase here? It's just as if you distilled a beautiful French field and turned it into milk, and it comes out like that. Not a hint of that messiness, the manure, the farm. It's just clean. Anyway, right. Moving on. This is the original. Now, that fragile coat has been replaced by many cheesemakers by using the Penicillium camemberti, which we looked at last week. Now, this is a mixed mold one. And this has come from Golden Cross down in Sussex. Very similar design. Again, that wonderfully white. Now, this is one of the things about goat's milk is that it is white and it stays white. It doesn't matter how old your cheese is. It retains that whiteness. You go with cow's milk, it'll start off whitish, but as it gets older and older, it gets yellower and yellower, more that classic cheese flavor. Cheese color, but goats doesn't do that. Sheep's milk is somewhere in between. Even those old hard cheddars, you get even those old hard cheddar we make in goat's cheese. They're white like marble. Now we're beginning to get a different mold developing. He's got a little bit of his ash on here. Let's see what Sussex tastes like. Again, it's quite beautiful, but we're not using that classic French style of having the straw through the middle.
What are the typical flavors then, Charlie, that you'd expect in a goat cheese?
Well, this one is getting almost got a fizz. So it's getting right across the tongue, and we're getting much more. It's almost got a sourness to it, but it's not a sourness. It's sourness that hedges towards sherbet, which was not what I expected, actually. It's really delicious, but it's highly unusual. And gets over the sides of the mouth, and it really needs a bit of wine. Let's have a bit of wine.
Maybe some citrus tones to it.
Well, that's quite an interesting thing. Thank you for prompting me, Tracy. With really young goat's milk cheeses, you often get the acidity that leans one way or other, either lactic or citric. So usually here we're talking about lemon citric, a really bright lemon flavor. And some of those cheeses, even quite some of the sort of mass-produced cheeses you get in supermarkets of those fresh goat's cheese, can have a really pungent, fresh, yogurty / lemon flavor, which is really, really nice. And even some of the big producers can retain that right through the pot over some months. They've got quite a long shelf life. They're often sort of seen as kind of mass-produced, and some of them are, to be fair, quite heavily processed. But many of them, I mean, personal favorite, I think I like the Soignon, the Chinoiseau. And that is, I find that we do tasting of it, and it's really, really good. So some of those pots are quite good. But then you have some. This is a Peruche. This is from the Neal's Yard Creamery, which is as processed as it gets. You know this one, Tracy? That
is one of my favorites. It's that beautiful fresh cheese, which is just got to be eaten straight away. And I think is that a tarragon one?
No, it looks like pepper to me. What have we got on this one? So,
or rosemary.
Rosemary on the bottom, but it's got pepper on the side. Can you see that?
Beautiful.
Now this, with the really fresh, this is about as old a cheese as it's possible to imagine. They've been making this for 8,000-9,000 years. And if I just do the rude thing, I haven't got any tissues with me actually. Can you see that is the texture you're looking for? You can even get it a bit more moussey than that. It's really soft. It's almost like it's got no texture at all. This one's got a sort of slight firmness to it, which you get after it's been made about a week. But that's so delicious. Fresh cheese is often underestimated because it's not commonly used on a cheese board. By the time you get to the end of the meal and you have had your starter and your main course and your 2 bottles of red wine or whatever it is, the fresh cheeses aren't up there. They can't hold your attention in the same way. You don't have that punch, which is why they're so often used in the starters, in the canapes, at the front of the meal, because the lightness is still available. The lightness is still there and is relevant. And it's why you often, that is totally on.
It's stunning, isn't it? It's just, it's absolutely stunning. I haven't got that to join with me. I've got a different one from Rosary Goat, actually, garlic and parsley.
I love the Rosary Goat cheeses.
So we've got
one on straight up.
Are you up for a question?
A question, please. Yeah.
So we have Alison on from no, I don't think it is Alison from Wookey Hole, but there's a question is, how popular are Hard's goat's cheeses? Alison has a cave-aged one from Wookey Hole.
Well, the Wookey Hole team are down in North Somerset, and they're using the caves in that part of the country to take their cheeses. Sometimes they only mature the last month or so there. Sometimes they're maturing the whole way through. And the character of the cave infects the character of the cheese. Now, one of the problems with goat's milk is that it's about 5 times as expensive as cow's milk. So as cow's milk is sitting there at around 25, 28, something like a litre for the buyers, but you're buying goat's milk at about £1 a litre. You can imagine all those goats, they've got a couple of teats, maybe 2, and they've got fiddly little business, and they are a pain in the butt to train because they are really quite intelligent. And so getting the milk out of those small udders, you're getting 2 to 3 litres a day. Big black and white Holstein Friesian out on the fields. The ships out there on the meadows, they'll be doing 30, sometimes 40 litres a day. The efficiency of a cow just leaves a goat for dust, which means that the cheesemakers for the goats cheeses are really up against it. Plus, at a 10-to-1 ratio, when you've got 10 litres makes 1 kilo, you need an awful lot of bleeding goats to make a small amount of cheese, particularly those older, harder cheeses when the moisture levels are down there at 30%. Whereas this chap is going to have 50 to 60% moisture. You're getting more cheese for your literage. So the young cheeses really favour goats making. And also, goats making with the goat was the cheapest animal out there. It was the peasant animal. He ate anything. He never died. You could just leave him. He could just chill out, and you could milk him and make those cheese. So in the old days, every Tom, Dick, and Harry was making cheese out of goat's milk. But as soon as these cows became affordable to the average farmer, they just pushed the goats and the sheep aside, and now they're in Renaissance land. Now the artisan boys are coming back, and they're making really fascinating cheeses with goat's milk, and that's why they're beginning to age them on. But they're always going to be maybe as much as 50% more expensive than your average cow's milk. So are they good? Yes, they are. They are awesome. Those Wookey Hole ones can be very good. The cheddar recipe responds well to goat's milk. Are they going to be more expensive? Sorry. The upside is they mature quicker. So a 6-month cheddar is like a 12 in goat's milk is like a 12-month cheddar in cow's milk. So that's a small benefit. It means it's cheaper to mature. Did I do that thing, Tracy, when I just answered too much? And did I actually answer a question?
I think you answered the question. You answered the question. I'm trying to remember what the question. How popular hard goat's cheese is?
Judy, you're eating Runnier, right from the Netherlands, the goat's gouda, a fantastic, awesome goat cheese. You know that one, Tracy.
Yeah, it's got that sweetness and that nuttiness of the Gouda style, but still with the purity of the goat's milk. It's
is that the Vingard brand? I think it is. But it's the most elegant expression of goat's milk. Not a hint of farm in there. It's another recipe. The Gouda really responds to goat's milk. Do you remember, Tracy, when we went on a tour of the Canary Islands?
How could I ever forget?
It was not a booze cruise. It was a very successful understanding of Canary Island cheeses. There are cheeses being made in the Canary Islands with goat's milk that are fantastic. But what is really interesting is they're fresh. Going back to this idea of fresh goat's cheese, they get goat's cheese in the Canary Islands like a Frenchman gets his baguette. They get a new pot every morning. Do you remember this? We would have it 2 or 3 times a day. The recipe is absolutely fantastic, and it's fascinating to see that kind of cultural expression that's very niche, very local, and as consequently they can really deliver flavors that are just awesome. And they had wines to go with it, those big Lanzarote wines. Great.
We didn't have the wines at breakfast, though. We just had them in the evening.
That depends whether we ever went to bed, if you remember.
We've also got people are tasting Kidderton Ash from Butler's. And they're also tasting the Rosary Ash. So Rosary do a couple of they do the straight, the plain, the original, and then they do it with the ash, and then they do it with the garlic and parsley.
When I ran my shop in Shaftesbury in Dorset, hello Shaftesbury if you're listening, Rosebery goat's cheese was our go-to because they were 15, 18 miles away, just south of Salisbury, still are. And so they were my absolute go-to for the fresh goat's cheeses, and I really love them. I really love them. Right, let's move on now. One of the reasons we picked up goat's cheese this week is because Charlie Westhead at Neal's Yard Creamery. Neal's Yard Creamery and Neal's Yard Dairy are friends, but they're not the same company. Easy to get confused. Neal's Yard Creamery had a real problem at the beginning of the lockdown of a lot of goat's cheese. And so I spoke to him and tried to persuade him to do a bit of an interview with us, Tracy, but he's a little bit shy. And he needs us to get more under our belt. And after our technical issues tonight, I'm kind of going with that.
Nobody can see me. They can only hear me, apparently.
Okay, is that good?
We could have got him on.
But he once said some good news. Due to the support everyone has given him, and maybe you're one of those people who's given him support, he is now making again. So that's really good news. He's people have taken his stock, they've enjoyed his goat's cheese, and he is now making, so he's beginning to make again. So it's great to see the support for the small cheesemakers beginning to come through. So what he sent me, apart from his awesome Peruche, I'm really going to love that, are 3 different versions of his 3 different ages. So, I don't know if you see white, right? Very white, very low mold penetration. You can see the cheese coming through. Yeah, mold really hasn't got in there. And if we open him up, don't know if you can see again. Can you see there's hardly a rind at all? There's barely nothing to speak of. Okay, so this is what he described to me as not yet ready to go. So it's obviously good to eat. It's good to eat from the moment it comes out of the goat. But that's not the expression that he wants.
Do you know who loves it like that, Charlie?
Who likes it like that?
The chef. Because it's easy to cut. It's easy to cut and grill like that.
It is.
So if you're going to use it as a to cook with, or as a grilling cheese, or to wrap in filo pastry and bake. It's
great for baking. It's great for baking. When it comes to grilling, I have to say I prefer this version. I might even be the next one. And we're just going to have a look. It's going to cut that open. So let me first make sure you've really clear. Can you see we've got fully developed mold there to the point where that grayness that you're seeing on the outside is actually the wrapping dropping back the mold, and it's beginning to get a little moist on the surfaces there, and that moistness is just knocking back the mold, makes that kind of almost polished look on the edges, on the tops here. Now, if we have a look at, this is looking awesome. It's a lovely example. Can you see now? Can you see now, people?
Yes. Yeah,
that rind has now ingressed, has beginning to break down a full, I don't know, what's that, centimetre into the cheese. We've got a very clear two-tone, right? So we're seeing, I give a bit of squeeze, a bit, so I'd like to give my, can you see that? So we've got the solid bit there, and then the ripe bit. Now, we need to taste this. This is the one he thinks is bang on. Charlie, you're not wrong. This is absolutely right. You can almost eat it in 3 parts. And some of the French judges, when they do formal judging, will eat a cheese like this in 3 parts. They'll eat the rind, they'll eat the center, and then they'll eat the cream. And then they eat them all together to see if the balance is right. So at the center, we've got a slightly lactic, slightly crumbly, very clean flavor. But because it's dry, as you're chewing it, you are bringing the flavors out, slow to release. That dryness holds the flavor back initially. And very clean. It's almost got a hint of bacon, actually. And then we're going for the gooiness. Much more savory, very creamy. We're hinting hints of butter, hints of that kind of rancid butter, which is not a negative. I want to stress that, but that kind of the way that it lifts off the tongue and gives you some really punch into that flavour. And
We've
there
got
you
a question while you're tasting that, Charlie. We've got a question from Bridget, and she's asking, with the roasté garage, do they add lemon to the goat's feed, or is it just heavily citric cheese?
Just heavily citric. You don't want to be bringing acid. Doesn't survive through. A lot of flavors do. If you feed an animal wild garlic or something like that, the flavors do pile in and carry through to the milk and into the cheese, but acid doesn't. So they're not bringing in that. I mean, I don't know if you had a whole lot of sort of lemon verbena or lemongrass or something like that, you could maybe bring the flavor, because that flavor, that volatile, isn't a citric acid. It's a different type of flavor. So maybe those could come through, but no, they're bringing it out through the cheese making technique.
Thank you. Another question from Bridget as well is, does the rind help keep the shape when you bake or grill the cheese?
I just interrupt you there for a second, Tracy. Okay, that's back. Yes, it does. What I rather like is if you grill this, the two cheeses that we've got there in our circle will melt at different rates. So the gooiness will give and just almost collapse. And the firmness, the center, that crumbly element, will retain its texture. So what you get is these little islands of cheese with the rind, which was previously held to the cheese by the gooey layer. The gooey layer disappears, the rind falls like this kind of belt, and it's a really pretty style on your salad, or even on a pizza or something like that. As you've sealed, so the breakdown of the cheese breaks down in different ways. From a transport point of view, talking about the rind, this rind is so much more robust than this is a full mold, which means you've got a multicellular structure. This is a yeast single cellular structure. This rind doesn't do anything to preserve the cheese. This one holds it in a little pouch of mold. That's what it's doing. It's good.
Another Irish goat cheese that we've got Avril's in the house tonight. Hi, Avril. Over there in Dublin. And Avril's, her most favourite cheese, her desert island cheese, is the St. Tola Ash, which is a very fresh goat's cheese over there in Ireland. That's Avril's favourite, and she's tasting that today.
Oh, good. I don't know if you can get that in the UK. The St. Tola Ash. Cool for that. From County Clare, I'm seeing. Dinner and dessert. Well, obviously cheese goes with every course. That goes without saying. Right, the last one up, Charlie Westhead. Right, this is the one he says is over the top. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but it's beginning to really be a bit gooey. And I think that we're going to find that this is matured. From an internal point of view, the rind is beginning to die down, but it's getting more and more grey. And we're getting that ammonia rise. I thought, it's not bad at all, actually. It's got full mushroom, almost like a wet carpet. And a little bit, it's not nasty at all. It's still good. Now, so his question was, is this still good? So let's find out. Ooh, oh, it just goes straight in there. Okay, now that's interesting. So for you cheese nerds' point of view, can you see that? Right.
Yes.
This is really interesting from a pure techie's point of view. The rind is beginning to break away from the cheese. You can see that gap at the top. The gooiness inside the cheese is no longer holding that center to the rind, and this, as a structure, is beginning to fail. Does not mean it's not going to taste nice. It might not taste nice, might taste nice, but it's a point where we're losing our ability to hold the cheese together in any significant way.
So another question while you're cutting and tasting is the white mold on the goat's cheese camembert?
Yes. I think I mentioned last week, camembert, people call it camembert or sometimes candidum, Penicillium camemberti or Penicillium candidum. It's slightly beyond my pay grade to know if there's a difference. I believe they're the same. I know that there are minor variations in these mold structures that as my elder brother would say, they're splitters. These techies, they like to really sort of make something of the small differences. I think effectively the Penicillium candidi, Camemberti, and the Candidum are the same mold, and they perform in the same way.
I've just been sent a picture, Charlie, from one of our guests, Susie, and her friends are all tasting remotely, and they've got a bouchette. I think that's a bouchette with beautiful little dried flowers on.
Wow.
Flowers, so like a fresh, and then they've got the Capricorn goats, which very well known. And I can't quite see what the other two are. I think there's a kind of a hard style goat, but lovely picture. Thank you very much for sending that in.
Did you say Capricorn goats?
Yes, Capricorn goats. Do you remember we used to sell it as little discs or as a square? This one looks like it's the square.
Used to be, well, it still is made by the Loveborn Creamery in South Somerset. It's owned by Lactalis, the very big biggest cheese company in the world. I'm not really sure, but it's huge. And they also own Somerset Brie. And it's a lovely, reliable, it goes gooey very nicely, that little Capricorn, doesn't it, Tracy?
It does. It's fantastic. Sorry, just a shout out to the people who were tasting that. It was Elaine and Bromley. We've also got hi to Cheryl, and she's from the cheese making workshop and deli on the mid-north coast of Australia.
We've got mid-north coast of Australia. What time is it with you guys? I'm guessing it's really quite late. Well, welcome. So shout out across the world. You are that way, all the way down through the world. Nice to meet you. Right. So we've got here the classic representation of goat's cheese, but as was pointed out by one of our guests, goat's milk is now being used in so many different ways. And if you go towards South France, towards the North Pyrenees, there's a big structure down there of them mixing their goat's milk with cow's milk or sheep's milk, or sometimes all three, into these toms, these hard cheeses of about so big, so tall, three-ish kilos. And that comes out of this history of them just making cheese with whatever they had. They would have had mixed herds. They wouldn't necessarily have had enough milk to make cheese with one milk, and that starts off being necessity, and they go on and become specialists. And I have to say, if you're down in that part of the world, sort of so the North Pyrenees up into Gascony, I highly recommend you checking out those cheeses down there, and the wines pretty bloody good as well, really nice. So goat's cheese is there, and it's coming back, and we're seeing some really nice cheese examples. We've got another question from Alex Cortland, is asking why some goat's cheeses are runnier than others. It's a really interesting point now. When you get a Penicillium Camemberti, as in the Camembert mold, onto a goat's cheese, it frequently goes more gooey than cow's milk. Cow's milk will retain a certain ooze, whereas you get big breakdown in goat's milk and sheep's milk, and it slides like actual cream. There's a lovely little cheese called Rocamadour, stunning place in about 100 kilometers, 120 kilometers, I think, south of Paris. It's an abbey on the side of a cliff, and the little Rocamadour is a little disc about so big, and it's really thin, which means the molds and yeast they're using to break it down really get in there and allow all the cheese to break down. So they go very good, and they pull apart almost like cheese from pizza. Absolutely delicious. And the same thing with some sheep's milk cheeses. Now there's a cheese that I like. It's actually a Soignon cheese again, which is a big producer. That's used to be available in some regions. I don't know if you're on it. It's a Camembert with goat's milk. Now you might think if you have a Camembert, you go for the classic, go for the cow's milk. But those goat's milk Camemberts are delicious. So every now and again, try goat's milk, and you'll get, as this question says, sometimes a really gooey outcome. I don't know if anybody's asked it, but some people just don't like goat's cheese. They think it's absolutely disgusting. Have we got any of those people on? Because I used to be a little bit unsympathetic, and I've since learned that it could even be genetics. Some people just can't. They can smell it for 30 yards off. And I feel very sad, because the truth is, I don't think there's anything they can do about it. I've tried to convert them. I've given them goat's cheeses of every stripe. Just not happening. They're stuck with it. They're stuck with their allergy. It's not allergy.
Sorry, Charlie. I think those people probably decided not to join tonight.
Do you think?
Yes. So hopefully we'll get them back next week when we're tasting Goudas.
Goudas. We do Goudas. Oh, here comes some more.
That's what you told. That's what you.
Put on my list. I love Goudas. Goudas is the biggest. Goudas are the biggest selling cheese in the world, and as the Vingard, the Vingard and the Runnier that's been mentioned today, some of those awesome cow's Goudas and goat's Goudas are definitely among some of the very best in the world. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cool. Can I possibly have some? So Gouda is on. Bring on the Gouda, and hopefully we'll have people tasting, because it's one of the few cheeses where you really can get it wherever you are, whether it's Russia, Australia, the Caribbean. There are good Goudas out there. So just to remind you. Sorry.
Yeah. Quick question. Few more minutes. Quick question from Avril. Can you recommend any pure goat's milk blue cheeses?
Goat's milk doesn't make very good blue cheese. The two that I like in the UK, Shepherd's Purse do a good one. I'm going to be slightly embarrassed. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is. And then there's the Totnes team. Sharpham do one, Harborne Blue, which is good. But you do not see many goat's milk blue cheeses at all. And I think it's a bit like buffalo cheese. It really struggles to maintain its structure and get good flavor. You can get it. I've seen some mixed milk blues that can work. For instance, the Queso de Valdeón or Picos Blue in northern Spain. That is a mixed milk blue cheese. It's usually goats and cows. It has this really weird thing. As it begins to age, the curd goes grey, and that's slightly off-putting. It's not a sign of failure or excessive age or any of that kind of thing. It just has gone grey. So if you know that Picos Blue, which is usually wrapped in, I think it's chestnut leaves, it's a punchy cheese, big flavors going on there. That's quite nice, but they're tempering it with cow's milk. Difficult to make good goat's milk cheeses, otherwise we would see more of them.
Harborne Blue is from Ticklemore Cheeses in Devon,
rather
than Sharpham. And we've got, let me just see, the Boyne Valley Blue, which Avril's suggesting, and I'm not familiar with that one. Sorry,
I don't know it either.
There's always something new to learn.
I saw someone picked up on Pierre Jacquin. That's the one of a lovely mid-sized company making really good blue cheeses and still working very closely with a lot of very small producers south of Paris. I recommend a lot of their stuff. They make really good stuff, and they are, as I say, they're not only making their own cheese, they're picking up cheeses from very small producers and maturing them or affinering them on. So a very old-fashioned firm making really good cheese like them.
And so, Charlie, can I just do a quick plug, please, for if anybody is out there and haven't done any of their Academy of Cheese studies?
Oh, yes. Come to my courses! Not just my courses, lots of good training partners for the Academy of Cheese. Anybody who's done it with me and is on the line, it'd be a nice time for you to say, Charlie, what excellent course you did, the Academy of Cheese Level 1. That would be nice. But if not, I've got one starting tomorrow. It's too late to get you the cheese on time, but maybe you're abroad and get your own cheese. We're doing it a webinar, first ever webinar for the Academy of Cheese. We're going to trial it. Hopefully other training partners will take it on and we'll be able to do training online. We've got enough space to have a go. So I'm hoping to see some people there. We start at, I think it'll be 6:30. So that'll be fun. And what else, Tracy?
So, and alternatively, the e-learning.
The e-learning, oh yes, e-learning. No matter where you are, you can learn from your computer. Dun, dun, dun. We haven't got an app yet. We're going to get one. We're going to do a tasting app. That's going to be very cool. So you can say what you're tasting, and it will automatically compare to what other people are tasting. If you want to invest in the Academy of Cheese, we're open for that. Sponsorship, patronage, that's really good. Plug, plug, plug. Anything else, Tracy?
No, I think that's perfect. We're 40 minutes in. You've been amazing.
Let these good people go to the bottom of their bottles and take their heart and soul into the land of cheese. I really hope you've enjoyed tonight. I'm sorry if you encountered technical issues. We have been trying something new. We'll hopefully improve that by next week. Apart from that, love you, love your cheese, and we will see you next week for Tuesday night is cheese night, Academy of Cheese. Go with a bowler hat. Right, how about the broadcast?